All right, so let's start making some changes to the email, okay? I'm gonna change back to a split view. And again, remember, you can click on certain pieces in the email and it's gonna help you figure out where it is. I clicked and it recognized it as the body initially, so it highlighted the entire body section. I clicked in again to get more directly on your name here, and you see that it places me here in the code, okay? So what I would urge you to do is just focus on the simple things first, because as you do that, you'll start to orient yourself to where things are in the code. So just as you make those changes, take a second to read, okay, I'm in div, class, equals, in quotes, name dash div. I'm gonna go ahead and update my name. I have a sense of where this is, move to the next area of content and make those changes, and just, again, just get familiar with where stuff is. So I'm gonna go ahead and change this. I guess I'll go ahead and cap this. All right, I've got my name up here at the top. I can scroll down. Okay, you've got the about me, and you'll sometimes see when you try to click something, the browser will jump a little bit. Just go back and click it again. It'll be fine. Here, maybe since I capped my name at the top, maybe I want to change this to all caps. I'll go ahead and cap that. Again, paying attention to the fact that, okay, this is these are my H2 tags. They're between these two divs. I'm, this far from where my name was. There's an image above my name. I can see the image and a class associated with it and where that's being sourced. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Just, again, get familiar with where stuff is. I'm not going to take the time to write out a sentence here, but just to give you a sense of what this is going to look like, I'll just copy and do some pasting. And you'll see as you add this information, it updates pretty quickly. Okay, and of course I forgot the capital L. That is fine. This is all just for an example anyways, okay? And again, you can keep moving on down. If you update all the text and you're ready to move on to your images, the same rule is going to apply. You're going to need to use an absolute URL in place of the links that you see here, the source links. Remember the way that we did that on Tuesday was that you can go to a website and you can right-click the image to open it in its own tab, and you'll find the exact absolute URL for that image, and you can plug that in here and it should pull it in for you. Okay, that's how all of these images were sourced. Now let's start thinking about, okay, I've gotten comfortable with where the type is and made some updates. Okay, yep, I'm comfortable with putting my images in. Basically I've done the minimum amount of work. This looks okay. You should at some point start to feel like, this looks fine, but I'm not really that happy with the size of the font here. Or, I really wish that this text was navy. I hate this background color. I want to assign something else to the background. So let's start with that. Okay, you want to change the background color. Maybe through this whole process you haven't actually figured out where that background color lives, or you've missed it. Whatever the case may be, let's say you just need to find that quickly. I'm going to go back to just my code view, and I'm going to do a Command F so I can do a search, and I can type in the word background. Okay, and this is going to work just like if I was in a Word document. It's going to search that out for me, and you can see that there are a couple things associated with background color. There is the background that is made up of the body. Okay, so the thing that's behind everything else. And then you'll see that there's a background color here that's white. And this, again, if you just look at the visual, this should make sense. Again, I've got this blue back here, and then I've got this white here, okay? And so in this instance, let's say we just want to change the background color to something else. You can do that in most cases by typing in a basic color. But if you have the hexadecimal code, you can also plug that in and get something more specific there, okay? This should have semicolon. Let me fix that. Okay, you can go ahead and add that to yours as well. That should be there. I'll go back to my split view for a moment, and let's say, okay, again, I've made some updates here, but there's some things I'm not happy with. So for me, visually, I really, really, really hate that this about me is butting right up against the edge here. And this whole little paragraph would be butting right up against it too. I hate the look of that. Okay, that's something that looks really cheap to me, and like someone didn't think through the process. Okay, and in this case, I'm just going to pretend like I did that on purpose so you had something to work on. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the code, and remember that about me. Again, if you just don't remember where it is, you're kind of struggling to kind of keep up. Remember, you can do a control or a command F to find that about me, and you'll see that that is sitting in an between two H2 tags. Okay, I can go back up to my CSS and see if there is any styling associated with my H2 tag. Okay, I can come up here. Remember, the only two tags up here are the body and the div. And then there are a bunch of classes. Remember, the classes are shown in this green color. I can double check my H2 tag to see if there's a class associated with it. And I would know if there was a class associated with it if there was this kind of information within it. Okay, so this div here has class equals main dash div. Okay, this H2 tag is living in this div, and there's no class associated with it. So I have a couple of choices I could make here. I could consider adding a class, and I could give it any kind of name I want to. I could do a space here, class equals quote, and maybe I want to call this main dash about. Okay, since I want to add this padding to both of the objects, okay, these two tags that live in this div, that would actually be the smarter way to approach this. Okay. But maybe I just want to indent one of these things, or I want to indent them differently. You know, I want one to come in a little bit and I want the other one to come in a lot. Then you might consider applying styling to these individually. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and do it in this manner. So main dash about. I need to add this to my CSS so I can start adding styling to it. And a good rule of thumb is try to order things the same way you see it here in your code. So the first class I see is main-div, and then I see a main-div. So I'm going to do main-about below my main-div. So main-div, where are you? Here it is. Okay. I'm going to place my cursor, and I'm going to hit return. Give myself a little bit of space. I'm going to do dots, and you're going to see that these are already populating. Okay, this IntelliSense really helps facilitate getting this content in here. You don't have to remember all of this off the top of your head. If you have enough information, okay, it's going to help you out. So remember, the class I just created was main-about, and so I don't know why I'm still typing it. I can simply click it. Boom. Okay, I need to add the same kind of brackets you see here. Okay, I'm going to add my opening, and you're going to see when I put that, it automatically gives me my closing one. So that's a great way to prevent any sort of errors later. Okay, it's kind of doing some of the work for me. So I'm going to hit return because I want to follow the same format here where you see border, width, margin. These are all sort of indented. And then the next thing is that, again, I want some space there. And what you may have to do, if you don't recall some of this later as you're working, or maybe you've got an idea for something and you don't really know how to go about figuring out what you should start typing in here, go back to that cheat sheet, okay, or go back to W3 Schools, and you'll see some of those keywords on the left side. Remember those categories? And so you'll see that one of the key ones is padding. And so here I want to add some padding. And see how it's giving me some information. Do I want to do it at the bottom, the left, the right, the top? In this case, I want to do left. And this is a little bit more of a sort of guessing game at this point because I don't really know off the top of my head. But let's say I think it's going to be 30 pixels. Okay. And so this is how this needs to be formatted. Okay. Again, I've got the class, my bracket. I've got the styling that's going to be applied to it. It's going to end with a semicolon. And then it's going to sit within another bracket to close it, okay? And so now if I go to my split view, you can see that that entire little area is now pushed in. And you can decide at this point if you're happy with that, okay? For me, visually, I think it would look nicer if it aligned. Remember, I do like my alignments. if it aligned with this picture. So I don't know what that number is, but I could try 25. That's a little better. Maybe 23, maybe 22. Okay, and you see it's just moving over slightly. Now, this text, okay, is a little close, and again, just for visual, keep this as pretty as possible. Let's be really repetitious, and I'll go ahead and add padding right, and I'll do the same thing. I want that to have the same padding on that side, just to keep that regular, okay? And this is going to look a little larger right now because it was going to cut off that word. There's no way for it to cut it exactly at 22 pixels, but it's going to control that now, and it's going to keep that flow really, really consistent. All right. I will be back in a moment to cover just a tiny bit more, and then I will let you loose.